Greetings and remembrance. Today we are honoring the victims of the terrorist attacks 20 years ago. With this event and others listed in your programs, the library is here to give you community space to share and to express yourselves, to contribute, such as at the community wall that we have here. My name is Faherty. I'm the director. I'm actually the new director of South Orange Public Library. I'm very thankful to have so many dedicated and passionate community members join us in commemorating this day. Many of those community members are listed in your programs and are going to be participating in today's events, which you could follow along with. So please rise as Boy Scout Troop 60 leads us in the flag procession. And are you going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Please do.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In honoring the names of those who passed from South Orange and Maplewood,
Christopher Olasanti, Christopher Vaughan, Donald Robertson Jr., Thomas Hugh, Kristen Christopher, Douglas Cherry. I ask you for a moment of silence as we remember those who have fallen.
Before I get started, we have the pleasure of welcoming our Assemblyman representing our district. So I welcome Assemblyman John McKeon to please join me at the front to offer some words as well. Please welcome John McKeon.
Mayor and council members, thank you, and friends, thank you very, very much. I wasn't expecting to say a few words, but I'm privileged to have that opportunity. I was in Maplewood Milburn, as well as East Hanover this morning, where there are commemorations like this going on all over our area and certainly our great country. And just a couple thoughts. One is that my brother was in the towers on that day, and he was very fortunate to have got an escape with his life. And every day I see him and think of how he's experienced the joys and vicissitudes of life. I think of how sad it is for those who just weren't as fortunate that day. And like we all do, I think of just about an equal number of men and women who served our country so bravely in Afghanistan as it related to a consequence of that day and the many, many thousands that came back from Afghanistan but just never the same. So if I could, Mayor, I know of all towns what an incredibly welcoming place South Orange is, and the character of this community is what I wish our whole nation could emulate. But I do think of that day, seeing all of the persons coming out of that tower. They were just filled with soot. You couldn't tell race, you couldn't tell age, you couldn't even tell gender in most instances. But what they all were Americans. So where we stand 20 years later, I hope we keep that thought in our mind as we unite as countrymen for all of our common interests. God bless you all in our great country, and God bless South Orange.
Friends and neighbors, on behalf of the South Orange Board of Trustees, Bobby Brown, Donna Collier, Bill Haskins, Trustee Karen Hilton, who is joining us today, Trustee Summer Jones, who is able to join us today, and Bob Zuckerman, thank you for joining us as we come together to remember. This past week, we saw pictures of kids going off to college to start a new chapter in their lives. Families gathered in dorms, hanging posters, unfolding sheets from IKEA to fit a twin bed frame. These young adults weren't even born yet. They have no recollection of September 11th, 2001. In fact, I was roughly their age on this morning 20 years ago, and I remember. I remember being a senior in high school in Mississippi with first period off. I had a dentist appointment at 10, so I was at home watching the news and having coffee. I remember the breaking news reports that the North Tower at the World Trade Center had been struck, and rushing into the kitchen to tell my mom there had been a bad accident in New York City with a plane. I remember being glued to the television set as the South Tower was then struck, and the subsequent news reports that ensued, suggesting an act of terrorism, and President Bush confirmed this 30 minutes later. I drove to my high school to tell everyone what was going on, running through the hallways. I drove back home to make phone calls to people I knew in New York and New Jersey. Text messages or Facebook weren't a thing yet. I had a little Nokia flip phone, and I remember the "all circuits are busy" message as I continued to dial and as tears poured down my face watching the images of the buildings, the people trying to escape, and the heroes trying to make their way in. No matter where you were 20 years ago, our lives would never be the same. For me, I lost my uncle Sung Ho, who had just wiped out his savings and took out loans to open a small jewelry and cosmetic shop a couple blocks away from Ground Zero. He suffered a heart attack exactly 1 month after 9/11, leaving behind his wife, who couldn't speak English, and 2 very small children. My mom always says he died from a broken heart. Today, I remember him, but despite the sadness, his American dream can be seen through the eyes of his daughter, who enlisted in the Army a couple years ago. Their motto, "This we'll defend." He would be so proud. 20 years ago was a moment of shared national grief that to this day still binds us all together, but not just as Americans or as communities across the country observing this day, but as people, one people. Today and every day, may we remember the beautiful lives we lost at the World Trade Center, at the Pentagon, and on United Airlines Flight 93. Today and every day, may we remember and celebrate the first responders and their heroic acts of bravery, those who sacrificed and were willing to sacrifice their own lives to save others. Today and every day, may we remember the families who experience loss beyond words. We see you, and we remember your loved ones. Today and every day, let us pledge to honor those we have lost by our words and our actions, to embrace one another, to celebrate our differences, to live our lives with care and compassion and love in our hearts for each other. Today and every day, we remember September 11th, and we vow never to forget. As you see, we have South Orange's heroic first responders, representatives from our South Orange Police Department, our South Orange Rescue Squad, and our South Orange Fire Department. And I'd like to welcome up our Fire Chief, Dan Sullivan, for a few words.
Thank you, Madam President. Trustees, Assemblyman McKeon, thank you very much for allowing me to speak here. Born and raised in South Orange, still here. I actually was part of a very large task force that went to New York City on the 12th of September, coordinated by our Essex County Fire Coordinator out of Seton Hall, 39 companies moving into Staten Island for assignment. We wound up in Brooklyn. We replaced an engine company that went into Manhattan and never returned. We spent about 72 hours answering calls for the FDNY. In New York City, besides the obvious tragedy, the pictures, the images, the videos, the documentaries, firsthand accounts of some of my teaching associates at New Jersey State University Fire Science Department who were there at the inception. There's a famous documentary of two French brothers who did a documentary were with Lieutenant Pfeiffer and an engine company downtown Manhattan when the first plane came over their heads about 50 feet high. Cameras immediately went up. These two documentary film artists were able to get into the Trade Center where one of my teaching associates was. And I can see him in this video running out when that tower started to come down with the mayor of New York City, the fire chief at the time, Chief Gansey, and he ran for his life and he ran as far as he could before he had to jump into water. He took coverage under an MTA bus that was on the side of the road, and he's still here to tell a talk about it. But we go through this time of healing and memorializing everybody, and you just look back and you learn that, especially in our calling, EMS, law enforcement brothers and sisters, our firefighters here in South Orange, tragedy is unfortunately somewhat the norm. And you see this, and you quickly learn that every day, each day is a gift. This is what happens in our business. It's never a job for us. It is a true calling. There's nothing more beneficial than helping and assisting and saving people on their worst day. We just saw this as a minor part of 9/11 the other day with our tropical storm Ida that came through this town with vengeance. I'm going to go back and tell you that I'm born and raised here and I'm still here. I've never seen so much water in such a short period of time in one storm, all right? It was unbelievable amounts of water and people were just challenged to the max. We suffered some damages, but again, we're going to carry on. We're going to get through all of this together. As Madam President said before, we're going to drop what's bothering us and just come together as a team. And that's what we try to do every day for the benefit of the whole. This is our community and we care. So I just want to tell you that on this day of 20 years ago, an unthinkable, cowardly act of terrorism occurred. Countless numbers of police officers, firefighters, EMS workers, FBI agents, CIA workers, judges, court officers in that immediate zone perished. But let's not forget all the civilians who were there as well. Some who I knew, some who were high school chums of mine who were in that building. Comes to mind right away, Donnie Robertson. Donnie Robertson was a great kid from South Orange, played Little League. We all knew him. He had, a decent job over there in the finance area, and he was working there. His parents have been a huge supporter of uniformed services in South Orange. They lived here. Originally from North Arlington, but great people, and their son perished. Another friend of mine, Tommy Knox from West Orange, the same thing, working on the 92nd floor of the World Trade Center. all right? I'm in Brooklyn working away and my phone rings and it's his brother. I heard you're over there. Can you look for my brother? We lost 3,000 people in one day there. Look for my brother among piles and tons of rubbish and rebar and steel. You know what? As much as I could, I assured him I would do my best, but we all know the outcome of that. So they never found Tommy Knox. We mourn his loss every day. I got a call from his sister yesterday just to talk about it, a little bit of decompression for her and exchange of thoughts. So I'm going to leave you with that. We've had a busy morning in the fire department so far. We're remembering as much as we can with our staff, and we're moving around the county doing just that. So I thank you all for coming. I thank Madam President for allowing me the time to impart some of my personal information. And God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you.
We have two pieces of healing music, the first by Vivaldi, the second by Mozart.
Before I read September Roses, I wanted to share a little bit of my 9/11 experience. Let me introduce myself again. Beth Halliday, the head of children's services here at SOPL. 20 years ago, I was working at a library, but not this library. I was an aide to a much beloved librarian, Jane Rowan, who is here today. She was a librarian at SOMS. I was working with her. My daughter was in the building. My husband was in Lower Manhattan, unreachable. We were the only school in the district that did not have access to cable, so we really didn't know what was going on. We had parents coming in, sharing tidbits of information. We had 900 kids in the building that we were trying to keep calm, keep ourselves calm, teachers, administrators, parents rushing into the building to try to take kids home, trying to find out what was going on. We didn't have radio, there was no internet. We later realized that that was probably a good thing because the kids were not subject to seeing these images in real time when the second tower fell, or seeing these images over and over and over again. But it was chaotic, it was scary, it was a lot. A few days later, a friend and I went to Union Square. It was sort of a spontaneous event that we found out about. A lot of people, I'm sure like you, didn't know where to go, didn't know what to do, but wanted to be with other people. So a friend and I went to Union Square. I don't remember if we took New Jersey Transit, I don't know if we drove, but we went. And when we got there, and I do have a photo of what we saw when we got there. Candles, flags, posters, people, pictures, people crying, people walking around, people sharing where and what happened to them that day. But one of the images that stayed with me the most was there was a tribute, everything was in the grass, of somebody, and there wasn't a lot of information about it, had created an image of the two towers, and it was out of roses. A few years later, I come to work at the library here in the children's room, and I find this little book called September Roses. And I realize that this is about the roses that I saw that day in Union Square, and it's a little book about a very big day. I'm going to read that now. I need to drink of water. These are the author's comments that I'm going to read first. At 8:50 a.m. on September 11th, 2001, I looked up from my drawing table and saw in the distance an enormous plume of smoke rising high above and beyond the Empire State Building. I soon learned that the smoke covering the city came from the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. After a few days, this author, like I, went to Union Square to be closer to the communal outpouring of anguish in the city. I saw the roses and learned how they came to be there. Relying on memory and imagination, I wrote and illustrated September Roses the following spring. As I looked down at the roses, a young man walked to where I stood and told me how they came to be here. Far away in South Africa, he said, over mountains, beyond the desert, two sisters lived together and grew roses. Their greenhouse overflowed with roses of every kind. Red roses, pink roses, yellow roses. Roses surrounded their little house and brightened every room. Every night, the sisters worked on designs for their rose display. They were bringing it to a flower show far away in New York City. When the designs were finished, they carefully packed 2,400 roses. It was time for their journey. High in the sky, the two sisters sat dreaming, and you can see the author depicts while they're high in the sky, the towers are being struck. The sky turned black. Their airplane landed at LaGuardia Airport just as this was happening. There were tears enough to fill an ocean. The sisters sat in the airport with their roses all day and all night because there was no place for them to go. Somebody approached them and said, "Can I help you? I have a place for you to stay." The sisters went, and then, while they were there, thought, how can we repay the kindness of these strangers? What they did, "Please take the roses," they said. "We have no use for them." "I have a place for your flowers," he said. The man drove the sisters down through the city to Union Square. See, I mean, this is what I saw. This is what Jeanette Winter saw. Yes. The gentleman said, "You are needed here." The sisters knew what to do. They found an empty space on the grass and set to work, placing one rose next to another and another, their hands moving quickly. The grass was soon covered with roses. This is 2,400 roses. And the author writes, "My tears," I could say my tears too, "fell on the roses." Our afterword is, "The story recorded here as I had originally envisioned it." The author subsequently learned the following specifics. The two women were commercial rose growers in South Africa who had come to New York for a flower show. Obviously, the flower show was called off. The hotels were full and all the flights home were canceled. Stranded at LaGuardia Airport with over 2,000 roses, the two women were given lodging by members of the First United Methodist Church of Flushing, New York, who had come to the airport to do exactly that, offer shelter to those in need. So this little book helped me find out what and who created the September Roses, and it was just a nice way to end a moment that, needed closure for me. Thank you.
Another year. Here we are. But for me, every year it feels like it's the same day that happened. And it just repeats, but we have to go on for the family and for the nation. We must be strong. You gentlemen here, I did the same job you guys did in New York, NYPD, 20 years. I know what you go through every day. And a job like that, you never quit. You're always on the job. Off or on, you're looking. Anything wrong or whatever, you're stopping and listening. It's instinct. And with us being people and what we are, we must have that instinct because you never know. You see what's going on now in Afghanistan? I don't like it because I think that we may have another problem down the road with the Taliban and everything else. It's like it's building up again. I think we should keep our noses out of a lot of places. Let them handle their own affairs. We had our civil war. It's theirs, I hate to say, but let they take care of their own and we take care of ours. Anyway, I'm not running for president, so I don't think nobody's going to say anything about that, right? It is often said, hindsight is 20/20, meaning that if you knew then what you know now, you would have been right. And it's true. You think about that. People in high places in our government that had said that on February 26, 1993, when the terrorists had tried to bring down the Twin Towers then, and they set off the bombs in the towers in the basement. It killed over 1,000 people and injured even more. But it was, we could handle it. That was a warning then, to be on the lookout for something to happen. And sure enough, it came back to bite us. It's weird how I remember that day because I usually get up early, going to work. I was getting a light bite to eat, and it came over the news on the TV about what had happened. But I figured, like the newscasters, the plane that was off course or something happened, it was a mistake. Beautiful day like today, how can that be anything but a mistake? A pilot, unless he's blind or had a heart attack. But that's what it was. So 5 or 10 minutes later, was a correction made on TV. Announcer stated that it seemed like it was a terrorist act. Right away, I'm out the house. So, jump in my car. At the time, I was living in Brooklyn. So, I'm on my way to the Brooklyn Bridge. I was living in Flatbush at that time, so 15 minutes the most. As I got closer to the bridge, traffic was backed up. It was crazy. I parked the car as close as I could to the bridge, and I ran. I put my shield on. I was in civilian clothes. I put my shield on. And I ran up on the bridge. So as I running down the span on the bridge, I seen all the debris coming down from the building, from the tower. So I'm hurrying across. All of a sudden, this officer, we have what you call EMS, emergency officers. They drive around little cabs like They have all kind of equipment in case something happened. They could respond very quickly. And this gentleman, he was all suited up. He had an armored vest on. He had his helmet on, big shield. So I'm running, and he's running towards me, and we stop. And he said, "You can't come up. You can't come up." He said, "It's a mess over there." And I said, "Show my shield." So we talked. He said, "You can't go into Manhattan." He said, "It's just about sealed off. It's crazy. There's a lot of police officers and everybody there." He said, "But you can help me here if you can." So because the cars and the people was getting out the cars on the bridge, they wanted to see. It was a big mess. So I said, "Okay." So at that moment, he had some barriers, he had cords and ties, everything. We started tying, roping off the bridge to keep the crowd from coming on further. And I was doing that for maybe over an hour. We was doing that, getting things straightened out and settled down. Then you start seeing the people come off the bridge. They looked like ghosts. They had all the ash and like walking ghosts. It's just unbelievable. It's like something out of a sci-fi movie. They're walking on the side of the bridge, coming down the span. My beeper was going off. I didn't pay any attention because I was so busy. But after a while, I took my phone out and looked. And it was weird because it was, at the time, I didn't think about it, but it was a boss of mine in Brooklyn. I was working at the Center Guard. I was doing private security because I had just retired. But my mind was still on the job. Instead of running towards the bridge, I should have been running towards the Center Guard. Understand what I'm saying? My mind was still in that mode. So my boss says, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm at the bridge." He said, "The bridge?" I said, "Brooklyn Bridge." He said, "What, you're gonna jump?" I said, "No." I said, "I'm helping out." He said, "Look, I know what's going on. Get back here ASAP. I need you at the Center Guard. Because God only knows what's going to be, what's going to happen down the road. It may be more." So I told him, "Hold on, it's going to take me a good half hour or more because it was out in Brighton Beach." I told the officer I got to leave. By that time, a few other guys, came by and they was helping out. I jumped in my car, turned around, and I headed back to Brooklyn to my new job. So that was my day, and like I say, certain things you never forget. And every day is a Memorial Day. I lost a good friend down there. He was one of them operators, emergency operators. Sergeant Rodney Gillis. So we have a lot to be thankful for, a country that we're proud of, but when they call, we have to go. That's our duty. Young and old, we must do our part. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm joined today by wonderful Village President Sheena Collum, Trustee Summer Jones, and wonderful Trustee Bobby Brown. And thank you so much, Jill, our wonderful new director, and all of the library staff for putting on this fabulous, important event. Listening on the radio this morning, I heard one commenter to say, "Condolences to the world today." It's how I feel, and I know it's how all of you feel. 20 years ago today, I was a 40-year-old stay-at-home mom of 4 little kids. I had my Sarah and my then Collins at Marshall School, and I had my twins, Katie and Elizabeth, who were 3 years old, at home with me. And we were getting ready to go to my good friend Kathy Faunon's house for a playgroup when I heard the terrible news. After being with Kathy that morning, we quickly realized that Chris was not coming home. We experienced the swirling fear and uncertainty and surreal joy of our little kids playing around us amongst this terrible, terrible tragedy. For all of us, that our world changed that day. The pure evil that was the terrorists are matched by tenfold by the goodness and the kindness and the grace that our community has shown in the days and months and years since then. As my dear friend Kathy and her wonderful children, Sienna, Juliet, and Liam, has grown, so have we. And it is the library that I want to highlight now in the growth of our community. In the 20 years after that horrible day, Melissa Kopecki, in her wisdom, our previous director, and all of our staff, provided an outlet and programming for us all to gather and appreciate one another. It was there that I found comfort, and it is here that I still do. The brilliant staff under the leadership of our new director, Jill, and our many, many volunteers that provide our community in our library with joy, companionship, and understanding. The library continues to be the place that we can all gather for free in an open, comforting environment. This library provides the space, and the staff and the volunteers provide the support that help ease our pain. Today's program inspires me to keep supporting, advocating, and reminding that our work is not done. In order for our library to keep serving our residents well, our physical space has to change. Our library, and every library, is simply everything. And if you remember anything that I'm telling you today, I hope it is that word, everything. Our library is here for us in every single way, sharing everything. Thank you. And now I would like to introduce the wonderful Dan Cohen from the South Orange Rescue Squad.
Uh, 20 years ago this morning, I was a member of the South Orange Rescue Squad, but I was living in Manhattan in Greenwich Village. My wife worked on Wall Street, and she called me when the first plane hit and told me that something had just blown up. And I also worked in the news business, so I thought I better go to work. But I turned on the TV and saw what was happening and thought I should go down there and see if they need help. So I put on my South Orange Rescue Squad shirt and hat, ran outside, and I flagged down an FBI agent from the river of emergency vehicles that were flying down there. I didn't think that they actually would want help from a random person, but got down there and asked the fire department captain who was in charge if they needed help, and he said yes. But the first thing that struck me when I was on our way down was how instantly all in everybody was. I mean, every single street corner had civilians of all ages, races, genders in the streets, directing traffic, helping evacuate people, and directing the responding emergency workers. And that feeling continued throughout the next few days and weeks, and it was truly remarkable. When the towers came down
We had been pushed all the way to the water, to the west side, and we helped people get loaded into boats that were coming over from the river, and we were sending them over to New Jersey. And at the time, I believe Sheena noted no phones were working. So I was wondering what was going to happen when they got to the other side of New Jersey, because we couldn't call anybody and tell them that boats with hundreds of injured people were coming over. But what I didn't know at the time was that the South Orange Rescue Squad was one of many New Jersey EMS agencies that were mobilized to go to Liberty State Park and receive all the injured people who were coming over on boats. So I found that out later. And then we also had deployed an ambulance, which I met up with the next night on September 12th, which went to Ground Zero and helped as the recovery efforts began. So it was a true community feeling all the way around, and that's one of the things that sticks with me the most. Not just the New York community, but even the South Orange community that I found in New York. And it was those types of things, like people were sneaking past the police checkpoints for the next few nights while we were down at Ground Zero with their trunks full of homemade cooked dinners to give to people. Stores were opening up just to empty the shelves and give out water and food to whoever needed it. And 20 years later, I think everybody sees the images and remembers the horrors of the day, but I also hope that people remember that part too, that everybody came together and, it was sort of one community dealing with this. And that's my biggest take from it 20 years ago. Thank you.
Jill. Good afternoon, everybody. So 20 years ago, I was just starting my second year of college in Jersey City at St. Peter's College, now St. Peter's University. And that fateful day, I got up to my first morning class, my only class in fact, and which was in the basement of the school, so we couldn't hear anything. So once class was finished, by that time it was 1:15 and the first plane had already hit. I walked out into, it was kind of eerie. We hadn't really seen anything happen yet in Jersey City. We're right on Kennedy Boulevard. And I'm walking in the direction of the PATH station, and everybody's walking towards me. So I'm like, what is happening? I had absolutely no idea. And then more people started coming, running towards the opposite direction. So I decided, I said, oh, can't take the train today. I'm gonna just wait it out and see what happens. And I got back to campus, and before there were any kind of rules in place, I am not a rule breaker, but we managed to get to the roof of a dormitory, and by then we saw the big cloud of smoke that had come from one of the towers. And I knew at that point that something was terribly wrong. I was not able to reach my parents at home because cell phone service was limited. And I remember that day coming through Newark Penn Station. As I said, I took the train in. I found $40 on the ground. And that $40 is what fed me and 2 other people who were also commuter students that day. And we sat at the diner with nothing left to do, no way to reach our folks at home. And it was that moment that I knew how important connection with people really is. And so I'm reading today from our Attorney General's book, which is called Surgeon General, Vivek H. Murthy, the 19th Surgeon General of the United States. And it's called Together, The Healing Power of Human Connection in Sometimes Lonely World. The chapter I'm reading from is chapter 8, A Family of Families. It opens up with a quote, which reads, "Peace is the beauty of life. It is the smile of a child, the love of a mother, the joy of a father, and the togetherness of a family." By Menachem Begin, Noble Lecture. Towards the end of the chapter, A Family of Families, there's an open letter. And it begins addressing different people, individuals, families, whatever whatever the makeup of your family is. But towards the end of it, and I'll invite you to participate with me, I'll ask that you close your eyes. I'll give you the cue. This is Dear Ones. Dear Ones, may you inhabit a world that puts people at the center, where everyone feels they belong, where compassion is universal and kindness exchanged with wholehearted generosity for all. The most important thing we wish for you is a life filled with love, love that is given and received with a full heart. Love is at the heart of living a connected life. Choose love, we tell you, always. Yet we worry about the world you are inheriting. When you reach out with kindness, will your compassion be reciprocated? When you are in need of support, will others reach out to you? Right now, the world you are inheriting is locked in a struggle between love and fear. Fear manifests as anger, insecurity, and loneliness. Fear eats away at our society, leaving all of us less whole. So we teach you that every healthy relationship inspires love, not fear. Love shows up as kindness, generosity, and compassion. It is a healing. It makes us more whole. The greatest gifts you'll ever receive will come through these relationships. The most meaningful connections may last for a few moments or a lifetime. But each will be a reminder that we are meant to be part of one another's lives, to lift one another up, to reach heights together greater than any of us could reach on our own. Our hope is that you will always have friends in your lives who love and remind you of your innate beauty, your strength, and your compassion. Equally as important, we hope you will do the same for others. You are precious precisely because you have the ability to give and to receive love. That is your magic. And it is our mission as parents, as community, as caregivers, as neighbors, to make sure you know that no one can ever take that away from you. It pains us that we won't always be there for you when you feel lonely and sad. But we offer this simple prescription to remind you you are loved. At this time, if everyone can close their eyes. When those moments of loneliness and suffering arise, take both hands and place them on your heart and close your eyes. Think about the friends and family who have been there for you throughout your life, in moments of joy and also in the depths of disappointment. The people who have listened to you when you were sad, the people who believed in you even when you lost faith in yourself, the people who have held you, lifted you up, and seen you for who you really are. Feel their warmth and their kindness washing over you, filling you with happiness. Now, open your eyes. Thank you. Many of you know that I'm the teen librarian and the volunteer coordinator here at South Orange Public Library, and it is my distinct honor to welcome a bunch of teenagers. But these teenagers are very important to our community, as all of them are. They are the CHS, Columbia High School, a cappella group, Noteworthy. They'll be singing, just one moment, The Parting Glass. Now, Mr. Noteworthy, come forward.
I spent it beautiful singing. We invite you now to participate in singing America the Beautiful. We will do 3 verses. First verse, everybody sing. Second verse, just you, and maybe soprano. Sing soprano adults will have to go on. Third verse, all together. The words for all 3 verses are in the program. Some have larger words for the second verse. Sing out. And these are beautiful poetic words after the please. Thank you all for being here.
about the orchestra in the flyers that we have over here on the way out and essentially into the library. I just wanted to say thank you all for coming out. This concludes this program, but certainly doesn't conclude what we have to offer at the library today. We have several events, ways to express yourself, and we welcome you to come in and use the library as your community space. That is what it is. And you can please take advantage of expressing yourself on the chalk wall. We have buttons that you can personalize over here, take away to remember the event. Also, inside, certainly we have some other areas that you can explore in the library. And we're here for you, not just today, but 7 days a week. We are open, and I look forward to meeting all of you. As I said, I am the new director, so I will slowly get to know each and every one of you, and I look forward to it. Thank you again for coming out today. And And I don't want to hold you all up by thanking everyone who contributed to today, but I will say the South Orange Public Library staff has been amazing in getting ready for this event. Thank you. And also, they let me hone in on their artistic skills and event skills, so they've been great. Also, I wanted to say thank you to our community leaders, to Sheena and Samantha and Karen for coming out today. Also to our EMS, the rescue squad, the police, and the fire department. Thank you so much. I said thank you to the symphony, but also I'd just like to say thank you to Noteworthy and everyone else who contributed, and the residents who came out and spoke and who stayed with us today. Thank you again. Have a good day.